welcome back to the studio and welcome to another painting project. In this video, I'm going to be painting a little cold, chilly winter scene on an 8x12 linen panel. I begin sketching up my composition from some of this fantastic reference that I shot just outside this small town that I live in called Lawrence, in the bottom of the South Island of New Zealand. I'm going to mix up some burnt umber and a little bit of quinacridone magenta. I've also got some ultramarine blue, some cobalt teal, two different yellows there. I've got a cadmium lemon and a Hansa yellow, two whites, titanium and cremnitz, as well as yellow ochre and transparent red oxide. And in this video, I want to talk to you all about color, but also some tubes of paint that you might not have, but maybe you need. So listen up. We're going to be talking shop here in this video, and we've got a lot to get through in the short time that we have together today. After sketching up my composition, I began adding some very basic zones of color, starting with the background first and working my way forward. I was able to simplify this landscape into major zones. I decided to paint that background a neutral gray. I plan on coming back later in the second pass and adding some layers of delicate detail. My paintings often start out with broad, general shapes and then end up getting more and more complicated as I add in that detail. I'm also going for a delicate amount of texture, just a touch, enough tooth that those detail strokes will hang off and also provide a nice painterly surface, even though we're going for some intricate marks. I've switched things up with this painting. Often I'm using Liquid Original and Liquid Impasto, but here I'm using Gamblin Galkid Slow Dry. I really enjoyed the effects that I was getting with this. And even though it's not really designed to provide that heavy texture, I was still getting some nice brush marks if I mixed a bit more paint in with it. I'm still using the same ratio of 1 part medium to 3 parts paint that I normally do. And I'm hoping to maybe work into this surface a little bit more before letting it dry completely and going over the top with those fine details. Now, if you don't already have this tube of paint in your kit, you've got to get it. It's basic lead carbonate. That's the chemical compound that you're going to find in the tube. And the white that it makes is called cremnitz white. This white has been a game changer for me in being able to build up a painterly surface, but not completely blow out the tonal dynamic that I'm trying to achieve. See, often in paintings, I'm focused on a very delicate value structure to communicate that light. And titanium white, whilst it's really intense, is incredibly opaque, and sometimes using too much of it can make our colors go chalky. But the cremnitz white has been unbelievable with the way it's able to delicately raise a tone, but also add to the body of the paint without this chalky tendency. It really helps me mix more delicate color and create scenes that are a little more atmospheric. And here in this painting, it's all about that misty atmosphere. So if you're not already using cremnitz white, I highly recommend getting that on your palette. I love this variety made by Blue Ridge Handmade Oil Paint. You can find them at blueridgeoilpaint.com, and that link is down below. I have this little rule that I'll never throw a paintbrush away. Sometimes the older and more frayed they get, the more interesting a mark they can make. And these old dagger brushes, with their bristles splayed apart just so, were perfect for applying some of these details in the trees. I mix color on the palette strategically. I think about my light zones and my dark zones and the variations of colors that I'll need for the project that I'm working on. And often I'll mix up a variety like this, creating what I call a sliding scale. I could create colors from a deeper, darker value and then push it into maybe a slightly lighter value whilst shifting the chroma or color. Now here, these colors have been absolutely extraordinary in extending my range, and that is transparent yellow oxide and transparent red oxide. If you don't have those on your palette, you should get them too, because it really helps warm up your colors and create some more natural looking mixes. This was really helpful in creating that light, warm flush of these larch trees catching a bit of that morning sunlight, but also in creating some natural looking greens just here in the darker stand of trees. I get out just enough paint in my mixes to cover the area that I'm going to be working on in any given session. I'm seriously thinking about doing this painting bigger, and in the bigger version, I'm really looking forward to the delicate value shifts here in this dark stand of trees. The way the light filters through, but the way that ambient light from the sky above just gently glances across those trunks and branches. One of the most important aspects of this painting is the light, the way it filters through these trees, and communicating those lighter lights and those highlights glinting off the snow and branches, the way it contrasts with some of those darker shaded trees. As I add details, I'm point loading a synthetic rigger. These brushes are fantastic for carrying a tiny bead of paint and for some controlled, precise marks. I use it to create some of these darker branches within the forest and carry those across the lighter areas. A little rule that I have in my head, and I almost keep repeating it to myself as I paint this, is light against dark and dark against light, creating little bits of contrast here and there to give the trees shape and character. Now, the other color that is an absolute must for me is cobalt teal. This provides so much beautiful, cool greenness to some of my blue notes, and this is particularly useful in the shadows. I balance it out with quinacridone magenta, which is a very intense reddish violet color, but cobalt teal can really help round out some of these shadow areas, communicate that ambient light that this scene is bathed in. But it really does help in adding another dynamic note and create colors that look so much more realistic, as well as extending my range. Now, I've got a video called Color Mixing Hacks that's on my channel from a few years ago. And here I was using 3 different colors: cadmium lemon, quinacridone magenta, and cobalt teal. These are actually very similar to the colors that you'll find on your home printer. But cobalt teal is one of those colors that I recommend to a lot of people that are just wanting to extend their current range. This really has been a game changer for me in mixing brighter, cleaner color. Now, if you're ever near the small town of Lawrence in the South Island of New Zealand, if you head out towards the Otago Dam, you'll see this beautiful stand of larch trees. In winter, it is just sublime. I love the way this pond freezes over each winter, and the way the light filters through those trees at dawn is just magic. Yeah, I think I will paint this again as a bigger piece. Now, I've been using several different brushes throughout this painting project. I generally use only bristles or synthetics, and the bristles that I really love are those Tish bristle daggers. No, not because my name's on them, but that does help, I guess. But because they really help provide a little bit of that painterly texture in those initial stages. But as I begin to refine the image, I rely more and more on these synthetic brushes. Like here, this synthetic Eclipse brush, which was absolutely perfect for laying down some horizontal strokes, communicating that reflection of these trees down in the water. This particular variety, made by Rosemary & Co., are called Eclipse. The Eclipse filberts are fantastic for details, but thin passages of paint. I've also used plenty of ivory rounds and ivory riggers, which is a little bit stiffer, and synthetic brush as well. But this helps apply a really beautiful, controlled amount of paint. Perfect for details. I've used an ivory rigger to add some lighter notes of reflection just here in the water at the base of some of these flags. I would love to talk to you more about this painting project, and if you want to have a go at painting this, then why not check out the full version? It's available right now on Tish Academy, and you can get a 7-day free trial by clicking that link in the description down below. Think of Tish Academy just like art school, only better. You can do it at your own pace anytime, and there's hundreds of hours of painting content on there. Loads of tutorials, as well as critique videos, as well as some art business videos as well. as the video version of the Creative Endeavor podcast. There really is more content there than you could shake a brush at. So check it out by clicking that link in the description down below. And you can see the full version of this video, which clocks in at well over an hour long. And we go into detail about all the combinations, mixes, and techniques that I go into to create this little painting. And this painting here makes up one module of a really intense landscape painting course. So if you want to take your painting techniques even further, check it out. Well, thanks for joining me here in the studio. I've really enjoyed your company. Here's my painting all finished. Let me know what you think by leaving me a comment down below. And I'll see you again in the next video.